Marcus Johnson had always been a man of calm and patience. From a young age, he had learned that life could be unfair, but that anger and hate never solved anything. He had grown up in a small town where he often witnessed injustice. These early experiences shaped him, pushing him to study law and dedicate his life to helping others. Over the years, Marcus became known in his community not just as a skilled lawyer, but as someone who genuinely cared about fairness and equality. People trusted him because he listened first and acted second. He believed that the law, at its best, could protect the innocent and hold those who abused power accountable. On a crisp autumn morning, Marcus woke up early as usual. The sun was just rising, painting the streets with a soft golden light. He prepared for the day, putting on his suit carefully, adjusting his tie, and checking that he had everything he needed. Today was not just any day. He had a routine hearing scheduled at the city courthouse. To most people, it might have seemed ordinary, but Marcus knew that even ordinary days could hold surprises. He carried himself with quiet confidence, walking steadily to his car. His mind was focused on the case he would argue, the clients who were counting on him, and the principle of fairness that guided every decision he made. The courthouse was bustling when Marcus arrived. People moved quickly, lawyers carried thick folders, and clerks whispered hurriedly to each other. Marcus could feel the usual energy of a busy day. He walked with purpose, greeting familiar faces along the way. Everyone knew him, and many respected him, but that morning, there was a different energy in the air. Security officers stood near entrances, watching every person who walked by. Marcus noticed Officer Darren Cole, a man he had seen before but didn't know personally. Cole had a reputation in the courthouse for being strict and sometimes overly aggressive. Some people whispered that he didn't treat everyone equally, but Marcus had always focused on his own work and didn't let rumors distract him. As Marcus entered the courtroom, he greeted the clerk, nodded politely to the judge, and took his place at the front. The hearing was routine, dealing with a minor procedural matter, but Marcus approached it with his usual professionalism. He reviewed his notes quietly, ensuring that he could present his points clearly and accurately. But as the session began, Marcus noticed Darren Cole standing unusually close, his eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made Marcus uneasy. He tried to focus on the case, but he could feel tension building in the room. Something about the officer's gaze seemed different that day, almost like a warning, although Marcus didn't know why. The hearing progressed without incident at first. Marcus spoke clearly, presenting his arguments with logic and respect. He asked questions politely, challenging points only when necessary. The judge listened attentively, nodding occasionally, and Marcus felt confident that the case was proceeding fairly. But then, during a brief recess, a small disagreement occurred. Marcus approached the bench to clarify a procedural point, and Darren Cole stepped closer than seemed necessary. He spoke sharply, questioning Marcus's behavior, implying that the lawyer was being difficult. Marcus, calm as ever, responded politely, explaining that he was following the proper procedure. But Cole's expression hardened, and his tone became aggressive. Witnesses later recalled that what happened next seemed sudden and shocking. Darren Cole, without warning, raised his hand and struck Marcus across the face. The force of the blow was enough to break Marcus's nose. Gasps echoed throughout the courtroom. Papers flew from the tables, pens rolled across the floor, and people froze in disbelief. Marcus stumbled back, stunned, feeling both physical pain and the shock of betrayal. He had dedicated his life to the law, believed in fairness, and yet, in that moment, he experienced raw injustice in the most personal way. People in the room shouted, trying to stop the officer, but the moment had already changed everything. Paramedics were called quickly. Marcus was helped to a chair, and his colleagues rushed to support him. Blood dripped from his nose, and his face was swollen, but he remained conscious and composed. Even in pain, Marcus's mind worked quickly. He thought about his clients, the case, and the responsibility he had to stand up for justice, not just for himself, but for anyone who might face similar abuse. The courthouse had always been a place where rules and law protected people, and now it seemed that protection had failed. The realization was unsettling, but Marcus's resolve grew stronger. He knew he could not allow this incident to go unchallenged. Within hours, the story began to spread. News reporters arrived, curious about the shocking event. Witnesses recounted what had happened, describing the aggression, the sudden blow, and Marcus's calm reaction despite his pain. Interviews captured the disbelief in people's voices. How could a police officer act with such violence in a courtroom? How could someone entrusted with maintaining order commit such an offense? The questions were endless, and Marcus's name became associated with both the attack and his unwavering dignity. While the physical pain was intense, Marcus felt a deeper determination building inside him. He had spent years defending people against injustice, and now he was faced with a personal test. He realized that the outcome of this incident could not only affect him but also the integrity of the courthouse and public trust in law enforcement. He began collecting statements from witnesses, making sure that everything was documented accurately. Videos from courtroom cameras were preserved, and Marcus's colleagues volunteered to provide testimony about what they had seen. Every detail mattered. The goal was not revenge, it was accountability. Marcus's family was by his side. They had always supported his work and understood the challenges he faced. Now, seeing him injured and yet composed, they admired his strength. Friends and fellow lawyers offered words of encouragement. Marcus absorbed their support quietly, knowing that he would need all the focus and energy he could muster in the days ahead. He refused to be defined by the violence he endured. Instead, he saw this moment as a call to action, a way to reinforce the values he had always stood for. Even as reporters and cameras swirled outside, Marcus remained focused on the bigger picture. He knew that Darren Cole's behavior was not just a personal attack, it represented a systemic problem. Bias, prejudice, and abuse of authority could have devastating effects if left unchecked. Marcus understood that holding individuals accountable was a step toward protecting others from similar harm. The incident became a turning point in his life, marking the moment when he had to rise above anger and fear to fight for justice in a broader sense. Throughout the day, Marcus's composure amazed everyone who saw him. He did not shout or curse. He did not act impulsively. Instead, he calmly followed medical advice, spoke to witnesses, and ensured that his case was preserved with accuracy. He recognized that his own restraint was part of the message. Violence and hatred would not define him. Instead, fairness, courage, and professionalism would. Marcus's actions that day sent a powerful signal: injustice could be challenged, even in the face of immediate danger. By evening, the courthouse had quieted, and the initial shock had begun to settle. Marcus was home, resting and tending to his injuries. But in his mind, the work was just beginning. He knew that a clear, documented case against Darren Cole would be necessary, not just for himself, but for anyone who might encounter similar abuse. He began making calls to colleagues, reviewing legal strategies, and preparing for the next steps. His determination was steady, fueled by the conviction that justice must prevail. As the first day of this unexpected ordeal ended, Marcus reflected quietly on what had happened. Life could be unpredictable, and even those who dedicated themselves to the law were not immune to danger. Yet, he felt no bitterness. Instead, he felt clarity and purpose. The attack on him was a challenge, not a defeat. It was an opportunity to prove that courage, preparation, and moral strength could overcome even the most shocking acts of injustice. And so, with his nose still sore, his face bruised, and his spirit undiminished, Marcus prepared for the battle ahead. The events of that morning were only the beginning. They had shaken the courthouse, shocked the community, and drawn attention to a larger problem. But for Marcus Johnson, they were also the spark that would ignite a fight for justice, fairness, and accountability that could change lives far beyond his own. That day, the world saw an act of violence, but what would come next would show the power of resilience, courage, and unwavering commitment to what is right. The morning after the courtroom incident, Marcus Johnson woke up with a stiff neck and a throbbing headache. His nose was swollen and tender, a painful reminder of what had happened the previous day. Even though he had been physically hurt, his mind was clearer than ever. Marcus understood that the attack was not just a personal affront, it was a symbol of a larger problem, something that went beyond one officer's aggression. He knew that if justice was to be served, he needed to act quickly, thoughtfully, and strategically. Marcus's first steps were practical. He called the hospital to schedule a follow-up appointment, ensuring that his injuries were properly documented. Accurate medical records could serve as evidence in the legal case against Darren Cole. Every detail mattered, and Marcus, ever meticulous, was determined not to leave anything to chance. While he tended to his physical well-being, he also started reaching out to colleagues who had witnessed the incident. Their statements would be crucial in creating a clear, undeniable record of what had occurred. Marcus's careful approach reflected his belief that facts, not emotions, would ultimately hold the power to bring accountability. As the day progressed, the news of the assault spread quickly. Local newspapers, online news outlets, and social media platforms picked up the story. Lawyer attacked in courthouse, one headline read. Police officer strikes attorney during routine hearing, another reported. The coverage was widespread, and the public's reaction was intense. People were shocked that such violence could occur in a place designed to uphold law and order. Many expressed outrage, calling for swift action against the officer. Marcus read the articles carefully. He appreciated the support but knew that the court of public opinion was not enough. Legal action was necessary, and he was prepared to pursue it without hesitation. In the midst of the media attention, Marcus also focused on the emotional impact. He understood that his reaction to this incident would set an example, not just for his peers, but for the broader community. Anger was natural, but it could not be the guiding force. He reminded himself of the principles he had always lived by: patience, clarity, and moral courage. Even as reporters called him for statements and neighbors offered their support, Marcus remained composed. He spoke calmly, focusing on the importance of accountability and fairness, never letting his words drift into revenge or bitterness. Meanwhile, Darren Cole faced his own challenges. The courthouse administration had immediately launched an internal investigation. Cole was placed on temporary suspension while details were reviewed, and his previous records were examined closely. For the first time, some of the patterns that colleagues had whispered about for years were being officially acknowledged. Complaints regarding bias and aggressive behavior were no longer rumors, they were part of an investigation. Cole, who had always acted with confidence in his authority, suddenly found himself under intense scrutiny. Marcus, observing from the outside, recognized that the system was beginning to respond, but he also knew that oversight alone was not enough. Evidence, witnesses, and careful documentation would make the difference. Marcus's team of lawyers and colleagues worked tirelessly to organize the details of the incident. They gathered statements from everyone who had witnessed the courtroom assault, ensuring consistency and clarity. Security camera footage was requested, carefully reviewed, and catalogued. Even small details, like the sound of the impact and the reactions of other court personnel, were noted. Marcus knew that every fact, no matter how minor it seemed, could contribute to a clear picture of what had happened. His dedication to thoroughness reflected his deep respect for the legal system, even in the face of its failures. As the investigation continued, Marcus also received overwhelming support from the community. Activists, civic leaders, and ordinary citizens rallied behind him, expressing solidarity and demanding justice. Some attended public meetings to call for stronger oversight of courthouse security. Others shared Marcus's story online, emphasizing the need for accountability and fairness in law enforcement. Marcus appreciated the support but remained grounded. He knew that meaningful change required more than social media posts or headlines. It required persistence, careful legal strategy, and an unwavering commitment to the truth. At home, Marcus's family played a crucial role in his recovery. His wife, Angela, stayed by his side, helping with both physical care and emotional support. Their children, though young, expressed concern and asked many questions. Marcus explained the situation in simple terms, emphasizing the importance of standing up for what is right and treating everyone with respect, even when they face unfair treatment. His family became an anchor, reminding him of why he fought for justice, not for personal gain, but for a larger purpose. The love and encouragement of those close to him fueled Marcus's determination. Over the next several days, Marcus's injury slowly began to heal, but the work ahead was daunting. He had filed a formal complaint against Darren Cole and prepared for the civil lawsuit that would follow. He knew that legal battles were rarely quick or easy, especially when they involved powerful institutions and public scrutiny. Each document had to be precise, every statement carefully worded. Marcus worked long hours, often late into the night, reviewing every detail and anticipating potential obstacles. His discipline and focus were unwavering, reflecting the seriousness of the task at hand. Even with all this preparation, Marcus never lost sight of the human element. He spoke with empathy to other victims of bias and aggression, ensuring that they felt heard and supported. He understood that many people remained silent, fearing retaliation or disbelief. Marcus wanted to show them that speaking out was not only possible, but necessary. By using his own experience as an example, he aimed to inspire others to stand up against injustice, knowing that their voices could make a difference. The courtroom itself felt different in the days that followed. Where it had once seemed secure, it now carried the weight of tension and caution. Lawyers, clerks, and security personnel moved carefully, aware of the recent events. Marcus attended hearings in other cases during this time, observing the reactions of colleagues and the administration. He noticed small changes: officers appeared more restrained, judges paid closer attention to courtroom dynamics, and staff seemed more vigilant about safety. While the environment was still far from perfect, Marcus understood that awareness was the first step toward change. The broader legal community began to take notice as well. Fellow attorneys reached out, offering advice, sharing experiences, and providing resources. Some suggested strategies for handling aggressive behavior from law enforcement, while others focused on ensuring that Marcus's case would be documented thoroughly for both public awareness and legal accountability. Marcus welcomed every bit of guidance, combining it with his own meticulous approach to create a comprehensive plan. He recognized that collaboration was essential when facing systemic challenges. Meanwhile, the media coverage continued to evolve. Local and national outlets began reporting on the patterns in Cole's past behavior, examining complaints and past incidents that had been overlooked. Marcus's calm and professional response became a focal point, highlighting the contrast between his measured approach and Cole's aggression. People were impressed by Marcus's resilience and clarity, noting how he refused to let anger dictate his actions. In a world often driven by sensationalism, Marcus's dignity and composure became a powerful story in themselves. Through it all, Marcus reflected on the larger meaning of the incident. He realized that the attack was not merely about one officer or one lawyer; it was about the importance of accountability, fairness, and courage in the face of injustice. The experience reinforced his belief that change was possible, even when systems seemed rigid and resistant. By documenting the incident, supporting witnesses, and pursuing legal action, Marcus was not only defending himself but also paving the way for a more just environment for everyone who entered that courthouse. By the end of the week, Marcus had accomplished a great deal. His injury was beginning to heal, his case documentation was nearly complete, and his support network was stronger than ever. He had transformed an act of aggression into a catalyst for action, demonstrating that resilience, preparation, and moral courage could turn even a shocking and unfair event into a force for change. Marcus knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he also knew that he was ready. The experience had strengthened him, sharpened his focus, and reaffirmed his commitment to justice. Marcus's story resonated with many people beyond the courthouse. Letters of support arrived from citizens, lawyers, and community leaders across the country. Some shared their own experiences of facing bias or aggression, inspired by Marcus's willingness to confront injustice openly and calmly. Others expressed gratitude for his example, noting that his approach showed how strength and dignity could prevail over anger and violence. Marcus absorbed these messages quietly, recognizing that while he had faced a personal challenge, the impact of his response was far greater than he had imagined. In these early days after the assault, Marcus understood something important: the fight for justice was not just about winning a case, it was about setting a precedent, inspiring others, and reinforcing the values that society depended on. By remaining calm, documenting every detail, and seeking accountability through proper channels, Marcus was demonstrating how integrity and courage could make a real difference. Every action he took, every careful step he planned, contributed to a larger mission: to ensure that law and fairness were upheld, even in moments of fear, pain, or uncertainty. By the weekend, Marcus's swelling had begun to subside slightly, though his face still bore the marks of the previous day. Despite the physical pain, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The incident, which could have been a source of anger or despair, had instead become a source of clarity. Marcus knew that he would face challenges ahead, that the legal battle would not be easy, and that public attention could bring both support and scrutiny. But he also knew that he was not alone. His colleagues, family, community, and even strangers who admired his courage stood with him. Together, the days following the courtroom attack brought a mix of anxiety and determination for Marcus Johnson. While his nose was healing and the bruises on his face were fading, he could not shake the memory of Darren Cole's aggression. Every time Marcus closed his eyes, he remembered the officer's outburst, the sharpness of the strike, and the shock on the faces of everyone present. But instead of letting fear or anger control him, Marcus transformed that memory into focus. He knew that he could use this experience to strengthen his case, to demand accountability, and to set an example for others who had endured similar injustices. Marcus's mornings began early. He would rise before the sun, carefully applying ice to his nose, taking medication to reduce the swelling, and reviewing notes from the previous hearings. Every detail mattered. He reread witness statements, cross-checked them with security footage, and noted inconsistencies in Darren Cole's previous reports. Marcus's attention to detail was meticulous. He understood that a single overlooked fact could undermine the entire effort. Each morning was a mix of physical care and mental preparation, reinforcing his belief that resilience required balance between body and mind. While Marcus focused on his case, his colleagues worked alongside him. Paralegals, fellow attorneys, and community activists became part of his support team. Together, they strategized the next steps, preparing for the civil lawsuit and considering the potential outcomes. Marcus encouraged collaboration, emphasizing that success required careful planning and teamwork. Everyone contributed ideas, researched past cases of courtroom misconduct, and brainstormed ways to ensure that justice would be served fairly. The sense of solidarity fueled Marcus's determination, reminding him that he was not fighting this battle alone. The court administration continued its investigation into Darren Cole's behavior. Internal reports were filed, and past complaints were brought to light. It became increasingly clear that Cole's aggressive tendencies were not isolated incidents. Marcus observed that this acknowledgement, though overdue, was an important step toward accountability. He took note of the internal memos and disciplinary hearings, understanding that even small administrative actions could influence the broader case. Marcus's strategic mind recognized that every piece of evidence, every official record, was a building block for justice. Despite the heavy focus on legal strategy, Marcus did not neglect his personal life. He spent afternoons with his children, helping them with homework and listening to their stories about school. These moments provided him with perspective. The courtroom assault was serious and unjust, but life had to continue. By maintaining normal routines, Marcus reinforced his resilience and taught his children valuable lessons about courage, patience, and integrity. He wanted them to see that facing adversity was not only about fighting back but also about holding on to dignity, even when others acted unfairly. As the lawsuit preparations progressed, Marcus noticed the power of public attention. Local media outlets interviewed him, community leaders spoke about his case, and social media buzzed with discussions about courtroom safety and police behavior. Marcus handled the attention carefully. He understood that public support could amplify his message, but he also knew that missteps could be misinterpreted or sensationalized. With calm and measured words, he explained the importance of accountability, fairness, and systemic change. He emphasized that the fight was not personal revenge but a pursuit of justice that could protect others in the future. One afternoon, Marcus received a phone call from a retired judge who had heard about the incident. The judge offered advice and shared insights into handling cases involving authority figures who abused power. Marcus listened intently, absorbing every word. The conversation was both enlightening and comforting. It reminded Marcus that even when systems seemed flawed, experienced voices could guide the path toward justice. He took detailed notes, later sharing them with his team, ensuring that every angle was considered in building a strong case. Marcus also began connecting with other victims of aggression and bias. Through community organizations and advocacy groups, he heard stories of individuals who had faced harassment, intimidation, or violence at the hands of those meant to uphold the law. These conversations were both painful and inspiring. Marcus realized that his experience was not isolated. By documenting his story, supporting witnesses, and taking legal action, he was contributing to a broader movement. Each person he spoke with added weight to his resolve, reinforcing the notion that justice could be pursued collectively, not just individually. Meanwhile, Darren Cole's suspension continued. He appeared tense and defensive during internal hearings, aware that his actions were under intense scrutiny. Cole's attempts to justify the assault were met with skepticism, as his prior conduct and complaints were carefully reviewed. Marcus and his legal team followed these developments closely. They analyzed Cole's statements, noting discrepancies and contradictions. Marcus knew that the truth was a powerful tool. Every misstep by Cole could strengthen the case, and every consistent fact recorded by witnesses and evidence could highlight the officer's misconduct. At home, Marcus's family remained his anchor. His wife, Angela, provided constant emotional support, reminding him to rest and care for his health. Their children, curious and compassionate, often asked questions about fairness and justice. Marcus used these conversations to explain important values, that standing up against wrongdoing required courage, careful thinking, and integrity. By teaching his children through example, Marcus ensured that his experience would have a positive impact beyond the courtroom. His family's support gave him the strength to face each new challenge with determination. The legal preparations were rigorous. Marcus's team drafted detailed documents, outlining the sequence of events, corroborating witness statements, and highlighting evidence from the courthouse security cameras. They meticulously reviewed laws and precedents related to courtroom misconduct and police behavior. Marcus participated actively in every discussion, questioning assumptions, suggesting improvements, and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. His commitment to thoroughness reflected his understanding that justice was often secured not by anger or public opinion alone, but by careful preparation, precision, and persistence. As the day of the first official hearing approached, Marcus felt a mixture of anticipation and calm focus. He had prepared extensively, both legally and emotionally. He knew the courtroom would be tense, that Darren Cole's defense might be aggressive, and that public attention would be intense. But Marcus's approach was measured. He reminded himself that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act correctly despite it. With each preparation session, each review of evidence, and each conversation with his team, he built confidence that truth and diligence would prevail. When Marcus arrived at the courthouse on the morning of the hearing, he noticed subtle changes. Security was tighter, officers were more attentive, and courtroom staff moved with cautious awareness. The atmosphere reflected both the gravity of the incident and the broader attention it had received. Marcus felt a sense of responsibility. He understood that his conduct during the hearing could influence perceptions, set a precedent, and even inspire others who might face similar situations in the future. Every step, every word, and every gesture mattered. During the hearing, Marcus remained composed. He presented the facts clearly, supported by witness statements, security footage, and medical documentation. He spoke calmly but firmly, emphasizing that the assault was unacceptable and that accountability was necessary. Cole, in contrast, appeared defensive and uneasy, struggling to maintain composure under scrutiny. Marcus noticed the reactions of the judge and the courtroom audience, some nodding in agreement, others quietly observing the tension. Every detail mattered, and Marcus's careful preparation was evident in the clarity and precision of his presentation. Outside the courtroom, community members gathered to show support. Activists, neighbors, and fellow attorneys spoke with Marcus, expressing admiration for his courage and professionalism. The experience reinforced the idea that standing up against injustice was not just an individual act, it was a community effort. Marcus appreciated the support but remained focused on the legal process. Public attention could encourage accountability, but it was the evidence, the documentation, and the structured legal strategy that would ultimately determine the outcome. As the hearing concluded, Marcus left the courtroom with a sense of cautious optimism. He had presented his case clearly, supported by strong evidence and credible witnesses. The outcome was not guaranteed, but he had done everything possible to ensure that justice would have a fair chance. His focus now shifted to the next steps: reviewing responses, preparing for follow-up hearings, and continuing to document every development. Marcus understood that the path to justice was often long and demanding, but he was ready for the journey. That evening, Marcus returned home, exhausted but determined. He spent time reflecting on the progress made, the support received, and the lessons learned. The assault on his nose had been painful, but it had also sparked a journey of courage, strategy, and resilience. Marcus recognized that while the road ahead was uncertain, he had turned a moment of injustice into an opportunity for accountability and change. He resolved to continue the fight with integrity, patience, and unwavering dedication, knowing that every step he took could inspire others to stand up against wrongdoing and uphold the values of fairness and justice. The weeks that followed the first hearing were a test of patience, strategy, and resilience for Marcus Johnson. Though the initial courtroom confrontation had passed, the reality of the legal process quickly set in. Justice did not happen overnight. Marcus understood this well. Every day required careful preparation, attention to detail, and mental fortitude. While the physical injuries from Darren Cole's attack were healing, the emotional and strategic challenges remained just as demanding. Marcus began his mornings as usual, waking early before the city stirred. He would sit at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee, reviewing notes, going over witness statements, and carefully analyzing footage from the courthouse cameras. Every frame of the video was studied repeatedly, each angle considered. Marcus knew that a strong case was built not just on emotion or outrage but on precise, undeniable facts. He made detailed notes about the timing, movements, and reactions of everyone involved, noting inconsistencies in Cole's statements and highlighting corroborating evidence from other courtroom observers. Outside the courthouse, public interest in the case had grown. Local newspapers and online news outlets continued to cover the story. Community meetings were organized to discuss safety in the courts and accountability for law enforcement officers. Marcus saw these developments as both a challenge and an opportunity. While he wanted the focus to remain on justice and not sensationalism, he also recognized that public awareness could create pressure for fair treatment and proper investigation. He spoke carefully during interviews, emphasizing that the case was about responsibility and integrity, not revenge or personal vendettas. Marcus's legal team worked tirelessly alongside him. Paralegals organized piles of evidence, cross-referencing witness accounts with video recordings and medical reports. Each document was scrutinized multiple times. Marcus encouraged open discussions within the team, inviting questions and alternative perspectives. He understood that every case had vulnerabilities, and anticipating challenges before they arose could be the difference between victory and delay. By fostering collaboration, Marcus made sure that every possible angle was covered, ensuring that their approach remained thorough and unassailable. At home, Marcus faced a quieter but equally important challenge, maintaining his family's sense of normalcy. His children continued with school and extracurricular activities, their lives largely unaffected by the courtroom drama. Marcus joined them for dinners, school projects, and evening walks. These moments grounded him, reminding him that while the fight for justice was crucial, it could not consume every part of his life. Marcus wanted his children to see strength in action, not just legal strength, but emotional resilience, the ability to balance challenges with care for oneself and others. One afternoon, Marcus received a call from a former colleague, now a retired attorney who had handled cases involving police misconduct. The advice was practical and strategic. The retired attorney highlighted ways to strengthen Marcus's argument, suggested additional types of evidence to request, and offered tips for courtroom demeanor. Marcus listened carefully, jotting down every detail. Later that evening, he shared these insights with his legal team, incorporating them into their preparation. Each suggestion, no matter how small, added to the collective strength of their case. Marcus also continued building connections with witnesses and community members. Those who had observed Darren Cole's behavior in the courtroom provided testimony, each detail supporting Marcus's account of the assault. Some witnesses were initially hesitant, fearing retaliation or scrutiny, but Marcus reassured them that their safety and credibility were top priorities. He provided guidance on how to give clear, concise statements, and he emphasized the importance of honesty above all. By empowering witnesses and earning their trust, Marcus strengthened the integrity of the case while creating a network of support that extended beyond the courtroom. Meanwhile, Darren Cole's disciplinary hearings continued within the police department. Marcus paid close attention to every development. Reports of prior complaints against Cole emerged, highlighting a pattern of aggressive behavior. These revelations were crucial for the civil case, as they established context and credibility for Marcus's claims. Cole's attempts to defend himself publicly were increasingly unconvincing. Witnesses reported inconsistencies, and Marcus's careful documentation of the assault gave his case a foundation that was both detailed and undeniable. As the next official hearing approached, Marcus focused on refining his strategy. He prepared his opening statements, ensuring that they were clear, factual, and compelling. He practiced responses to potential questions, anticipating attempts by Darren Cole's legal team to minimize or misrepresent the incident. Marcus emphasized calm, professionalism, and precision, knowing that his composure could influence not only the judge's perception but also the public's understanding of the case. Every word, gesture, and expression was calculated to convey confidence without aggression. The day of the hearing arrived, and Marcus entered the courtroom with a measured calm. The atmosphere was charged with tension. Media representatives filled the gallery, while community members quietly observed from the benches. Marcus noticed the watchful eyes of court staff and security personnel, all aware that the previous incident had brought scrutiny to the courtroom environment. Marcus remained focused, taking a deep breath as he approached the podium, determined to present the facts with clarity and integrity. Marcus began by calmly summarizing the events leading to the assault. He cited witness statements, referenced video footage, and explained the sequence of actions that led to Darren Cole striking him. The courtroom was silent, attentive to every word. Marcus's measured tone conveyed authority without anger. He highlighted not only the personal impact of the attack but also the broader implications for courtroom safety and public trust. Every detail was supported by evidence, and the clarity of his argument left little room for doubt. Darren Cole's defense attempted to challenge Marcus's account, claiming misunderstandings and misinterpretations. However, Marcus anticipated these claims. With precision, he referenced corroborating evidence from multiple angles, reinforced by the testimony of several witnesses. The judge carefully reviewed the documentation and questioned both sides thoroughly. Marcus answered each question with calm confidence, presenting facts without exaggeration or emotional outburst. His ability to remain composed in the face of potential intimidation impressed both the judge and the courtroom audience. During breaks in the hearing, Marcus received encouragement from supporters in the gallery. Community leaders and fellow attorneys approached him, expressing admiration for his courage and professionalism. Their support strengthened Marcus's resolve, reminding him that the fight for justice extended beyond individual grievances. It was a battle for fairness, accountability, and the integrity of the legal system. Marcus appreciated their encouragement but stayed focused on the case, knowing that the courtroom proceedings required his full attention. By the end of the day, the hearing concluded with a sense of cautious optimism. Marcus had presented a strong, well-documented case, supported by credible witnesses and clear evidence. The judge scheduled follow-up hearings to review additional materials and consider the civil claims. While the outcome was not yet certain, Marcus felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced a powerful authority figure, endured a physical and emotional attack, and responded with strategy, preparation, and integrity. Back at home, Marcus reflected on the progress made. He reviewed notes, organized documents, and planned the next steps with his legal team. At the same time, he took moments to relax with his family, appreciating the small joys that life offered. These moments of balance were essential, reinforcing his resilience and providing the mental clarity needed for the ongoing legal battle. Marcus recognized that enduring the process required not only legal skill but also personal strength and emotional equilibrium. As evening fell, Marcus prepared for the coming days. He continued coordinating with witnesses, reviewing evidence, and planning for the next hearings. The challenge ahead was significant, but Marcus remained undeterred. The assault on his nose had been shocking and unjust, but it had also ignited a determination to pursue justice with clarity, integrity, and courage. Every action he took now was part of a larger mission, to ensure accountability, protect others, and uphold the principles of fairness that he believed in so strongly. Marcus's journey in these weeks illustrated more than just a legal battle. It showed the importance of preparation, community support, and personal resilience. It demonstrated that standing up against wrongdoing required more than anger, it required thoughtfulness, evidence, and patience. Marcus's story began to inspire others, creating awareness of courtroom safety and the importance of holding those in power accountable. He realized that each step forward, no matter how small, contributed to a larger movement for justice. In the quiet moments of the night, Marcus sat in his study, reviewing footage one last time before sleep. He reflected on the progress made and the challenges ahead, understanding that perseverance was essential. The path to justice was demanding, but Marcus's experience had strengthened his resolve. He was ready to face the next hearing with focus, confidence, and integrity, knowing that truth and preparation would guide him forward. The day of the final hearing arrived. Marcus Johnson felt a mix of nerves and determination as he entered the courthouse. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, reviewing every piece of evidence, practicing every statement, and making sure that every witness knew exactly what to expect. The courthouse was quiet but tense, with reporters and community members filling the gallery. Everyone had heard about the shocking assault Marcus had endured, and the anticipation of the outcome created a charged atmosphere. Marcus took a deep breath, steadying himself as he approached the podium. He reminded himself that the fight was not just about him, it was about fairness, accountability, and the principle that no one, regardless of their position, could act with impunity. The judge, who had reviewed the evidence carefully over the previous weeks, nodded at Marcus, signaling that it was time to begin. Marcus started calmly, presenting the facts in a clear, precise manner. Every detail was backed by video footage, witness testimony, and medical records documenting his injuries. He explained the assault clearly, describing how Darren Cole had struck him in court without provocation, breaking his nose in front of others. He avoided exaggeration, focusing instead on the truth and the sequence of events. His voice remained steady, showing both confidence and professionalism. He emphasized the importance of courtroom safety and the need to hold law enforcement officers accountable when they crossed the line. The words were powerful because they were honest, and the clarity of his presentation made it difficult for anyone to question his account. Witnesses were called one by one. Each spoke with honesty and precision, describing exactly what they had seen. They noted Darren Cole's aggressive behavior, the sudden attack, and Marcus's reaction. Some witnesses described the fear they felt, while others recounted how shocked the courtroom was at the incident. Their testimonies were consistent and aligned perfectly with Marcus's account, reinforcing the strength of the case. Each witness spoke clearly and respectfully, demonstrating the seriousness of the situation. Darren Cole's defense attempted to downplay the incident. They argued that Marcus had somehow provoked the attack or exaggerated the injury. But Marcus and his legal team were prepared. They presented the video footage frame by frame, showing the exact moment of the assault and Cole's movements. They cross-referenced the footage with witness statements, showing the discrepancies in Cole's account. Every attempt to undermine Marcus's story was met with precise evidence, leaving little room for doubt. The courtroom was silent as the judge reviewed the evidence and listened to the arguments. The tension was palpable. Marcus noticed the judge's focused attention, understanding that this moment would determine not only the outcome of the case but also set an example for the treatment of others in the courtroom. Marcus remained calm, knowing that his preparation and patience had brought him to this point. He had endured the assault, the waiting, and the uncertainty, and now the moment of judgment was near. After all the witnesses had spoken, the judge asked Marcus to make a closing statement. He stood confidently, summarizing the key points of the case. He reminded the court of the assault, the evidence, and the testimonies of witnesses who had seen the incident firsthand. He spoke of fairness, justice, and accountability, making it clear that the case was about ensuring the integrity of the legal system, not personal revenge. His words were measured, sincere, and persuasive, leaving a lasting impression on everyone in the courtroom. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The judge reviewed the documents, evidence, and testimonies one final time. The courtroom held its collective breath as the decision was read. Darren Cole was found fully responsible for the assault on Marcus Johnson. The judge highlighted the seriousness of attacking someone in the courtroom, noting that law enforcement officers were expected to uphold the law, not break it. Cole was removed from active duty, and disciplinary measures were imposed. Marcus's injuries were recognized as a direct result of Cole's actions, and compensation was awarded to him for both physical and emotional damages. The announcement brought a wave of relief and quiet celebration among Marcus's supporters. Community members who had followed the case expressed admiration for Marcus's courage and determination. They recognized that the victory was not only personal but symbolic, showing that accountability and justice could prevail even against those in positions of power. Marcus remained composed, feeling a sense of satisfaction and vindication, knowing that his patience and preparation had paid off. After the hearing, Marcus spoke to the media and community members. He emphasized the importance of standing up for one's rights while maintaining respect for the legal system. He encouraged others to document incidents carefully, seek support, and rely on facts rather than emotion alone. Marcus highlighted the need for fairness in all institutions, especially those responsible for upholding the law. His words resonated deeply with the audience, inspiring others to act with courage and integrity in their own lives. Marcus also took time to reflect privately. He thought about the days he had spent preparing, the nights of worry, and the moments of fear during the courtroom confrontation. He realized that the experience had taught him valuable lessons about resilience, strategy, and the importance of community support. He understood that facing injustice required more than anger, it required careful planning, patience, and unwavering commitment to truth. His family celebrated the victory quietly but meaningfully. They shared a sense of pride and relief, knowing that Marcus's determination had led to justice. The experience had been challenging, but it had also strengthened their bonds, teaching them the importance of standing together in difficult times. Marcus made sure to thank his children and spouse for their support, acknowledging that their encouragement had been essential in helping him endure the long and stressful process. In the days that followed, Marcus worked with community leaders to organize awareness programs about courtroom safety and accountability for law enforcement officers. He shared his story in educational forums, emphasizing that justice required action, integrity, and courage. The programs aimed to inspire others to stand up for what was right while understanding the importance of preparation, documentation, and collaboration with legal professionals. Marcus's experience became a powerful teaching tool, showing that even ordinary citizens could make a difference when they acted with honesty and persistence. Marcus also stayed in contact with the witnesses who had supported him. He expressed gratitude for their courage and honesty, recognizing that their testimony had been crucial to achieving a just outcome. By maintaining these relationships, Marcus helped foster a network of trust and accountability within the community, encouraging others to speak out when they witnessed wrongdoing. His actions demonstrated that justice was a collective effort, strengthened by cooperation and moral courage. Over time, Marcus began to heal fully, both physically and emotionally. The pain in his nose subsided, leaving only a faint reminder of the assault. Emotionally, he felt a sense of closure and accomplishment. He had endured a difficult ordeal, faced a powerful adversary, and emerged victorious without compromising his values or integrity. Marcus realized that the experience had made him stronger, more confident, and more committed to fairness and justice in all areas of life. Marcus's story spread beyond his local community. News outlets, social media, and advocacy organizations highlighted the case, emphasizing the lessons of courage, resilience, and accountability. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences, community events, and legal forums. He used these opportunities to advocate for transparency, justice, and safe environments in courts and public institutions. His message was clear: standing up for what is right required preparation, patience, and unwavering commitment, but the results could inspire meaningful change. In the end, Marcus Johnson's journey was about more than a single assault or a legal victory. It was about integrity, courage, and the power of perseverance. By facing injustice head-on, documenting the facts, and relying on truth and evidence, Marcus not only achieved personal justice but also contributed to a broader movement toward accountability and fairness. His actions demonstrated that individuals could make a difference, and that standing up against wrongdoing, even against those in positions of authority, could lead to meaningful change. As Marcus reflected on the entire experience, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The struggle had been long, and the challenges had been many, but the outcome validated his efforts and strengthened his resolve. He understood that the fight for justice was ongoing, and that each person had a role to play in upholding truth and integrity in society. Marcus's story became an enduring example of courage, resilience, and the transformative power of standing up for what is right, inspiring countless others to act with honor, patience, and determination in the face of injustice.